Welcome back to Wellbeing at Work, a workplace options podcast. My name is Sarah Wood, Vice President and General Manager of Emerging Solutions at Workplace Options. And today I am joined by Yara Maria Camille, clinical psychologist and clinical success coach at Workplace Options, and her husband Edmund, a cancer survivor, who are here to discuss the growing workplace concern that is cancer and what organizations need to know to facilitate survivors' successful return to work. Hello, Yara and Eddie. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, pleasure to be here.
Well, before we begin, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the increasing presence of cancer in the workplace and the challenge that survivors and their managers currently face when navigating the return to work process.
Sure, Sarah. Cancer is no longer just a personal crisis, it's a workplace reality. The World Health Organization estimated that 1 in 5 people worldwide will receive a cancer diagnosis in their lifetime, and many of them are working professionals. In fact, this number is expected to rise by nearly 80% over the coming decades, and among those diagnosed, nearly half are of working age. Many employers have already noticed an increase in cancer cases amongst their employees, and such diagnosis can significantly disrupt a person's life, often requiring them to step away from work for treatment. Now, fortunately, thanks to advancement in early detection and treatment, survival rates have improved significantly. This means that while the number of cancer diagnoses is rising, so too is the number of cancer survivors, thankfully. And many of them will attempt to return to work. Research tells us that the vast majority of cancer survivors want to return to work, but their success largely depends on the support they receive in the workplace. And here's where the real challenge lies for employers. We already know that nearly half of employees are afraid to disclose their diagnosis to their employer, and this signals a deep-rooted concerns about whether they will receive the right support from their employer. Even more concerning is that 7 in 10 survivors feel their managers are unprepared to help them and fail to provide the necessary accommodations for a successful return. And this isn't just coming from employees with limited tenure. One report found that 2/3 of those who ultimately left their jobs due to a lack of support had been with organizations for 4 to 10 years. And that's a significant loss of experience and talent. So for employers, the challenge isn't about just addressing the cancer's direct impact on their workplace. It's about tackling the broader cultural and organizational barriers that can make or break a survivor's ability to reintegrate successfully. Creating a workplace that truly supports employees through and beyond their cancer journey isn't just the right thing to do, it's a business imperative.
Thank you, Yara. That's a really excellent point to make. Now, the reason you both are here today is because you've had firsthand experience with cancer and the profound impact it has on both your personal and professional lives, in addition to some of the challenges that you've just mentioned. Eddie, and thank you again so much for being here today and agreeing to share your story. I understand that in August 2023, you had your own experience with cancer and the challenges of returning to work afterward. I was wondering if you could walk us through that journey and share with us what it was like for you both personally and professionally.
Sure, thank you, Sarah. So back in August 2023, during my summer vacation, I started getting these mild headaches. In the beginning, I didn't think much of it, especially because I was also dealing with some neck pain, and I thought that my neck was probably the cause. But the headaches didn't go away, so I decided to go see a neurologist and get an X-ray. He told me I needed physiotherapy, but a couple of weeks later, the pain was still there. Then one morning, out of nowhere, I got very dizzy, and that's when I knew that I had to go to the ER. They did an MRI, and that's when they found a big tumor pressing on my brain. I was rushed straight away to the ICU for surgery the next day. Unfortunately, the surgery didn't work well, didn't work as planned, and the doctor couldn't remove the whole tumor. So I had to fly to the US a few weeks later to a top medical center to get it fully removed. After that, I started the second phase of my treatment, radiotherapy and chemotherapy, which lasted almost a year. So today, I'm officially a cancer survivor, treatment-free, and I just need to have frequent checkups to make sure that the tumor didn't come back. Now, it was honestly a huge shock, and it felt like my whole life and all my plans were completely shattered. In the beginning, there wasn't even time to think properly. It was all so chaotic, completely chaotic. I wasn't really thinking about work. And on the day of my diagnosis, I just sent a quick message to a couple of colleagues saying, "Hi, I can't work. I have a brain tumor." And that was it. I didn't even know if I would ever be able to, get back to work. I was really lucky to have an amazing work culture with colleagues and managers who were really supportive. From day one, I felt this overwhelming support, with many colleagues, including my general manager, coming to visit me in the hospital even during my surgery. But support at work goes beyond kindness. It's also about structure, communication, and a plan for reintegration. Now, Yara, from the start, understood this. And she knew all about the sick leave regulations here in the UAE and immediately jumped in to handle things for me so that I could focus on my health. She started the conversation with my team at the hospital very early on, which helped set the right tone, making it clear that I needed support. And it wasn't just about taking time off, it was about making sure that there was a plan in place, making sure that there was flexibility, understanding, and definitely resources to gradually return to work in a way that honored my treatment, my healing, and my career. So starting that conversation made all the difference. Now, throughout my treatment, I stayed in close touch with my colleagues, being really open and setting clear expectations for what was coming up. I can say that transparency helped keep the lines of communication strong and made the transition back much smoother. Once I was ready to come back, my colleagues and my team were very understanding. So I started working remotely, part-time at first, because I was still dealing with fatigue and side effects from chemo and radiation. But slowly and surely, I increased my working hours and fully returned to work after 5 months of my first surgery. Now, the journey wasn't over. So I still had chemo sessions, blood tests, scans, and everything that comes with it. But my employer continued to support me, offering flexibility with my hours, allowing me to take, breaks, long breaks, skip meetings when needed, work remotely when I needed to reduce, the risk of infection, and when I was handling side effects such as nausea and fatigue. But today, I'm really grateful to be completely back to life and back to work. I'm fully engaged and satisfied with my career. And I really recognize how much a supportive workplace can make all the difference in a case like mine.
Wow, thank you so much, Eddie, for sharing that with us. I can't imagine how difficult that was for you and your family, and I'm so glad that you're cancer free. Yours is such an inspiring success story. Returning to work after cancer, it's no small feat. That being said, I'm curious to know what were some of the biggest challenges or concerns that you faced during this transition, and how did they impact either or both your journey and your return?
So definitely it was not easy. And one of the biggest challenges throughout the transition was the uncertainty. So you go through different steps and you don't really know how long recovery would take and if you ever return to work in the beginning and how it would affect both, your life, your personal life, your professional life. So that unpredictability was really, really, really difficult. And there were moments where I felt like I was really struggling to keep up. Now, another challenge was finding the balance between, accepting support, but also maintaining my independence. So I didn't want to lean too much on others, but at the same time, I knew that I couldn't do it alone. Thankfully, I had a very good support system. My team stepped in exactly when I needed them. They offered the right kind of support without making me feel like I was losing control. But at the same time, my recovery wasn't just about medical treatments or returning to work. It was about my whole well-being. So definitely it was about my family, my mental health, my nutrition, rebuilding my physical strengths, etc. So every piece mattered in helping me move forward, not just as an employee, but mainly as a person, as a whole, reclaiming my whole life, including my professional life after cancer. Definitely, I didn't do it alone, and Yara played a huge role in making sure that I had the right support system in place. She helped me connect with a psychologist, a nutritionist, a physiotherapist, a posture therapist, while also guiding me in adjusting my diet, meals, exercises at home. And that was extremely helpful. At the same time, I made it a point to create space for myself, for mindfulness, for spirituality in my routine, making sure that every part of my recovery, mind, body, soul, was really acknowledged. Most importantly, as my partner in what became the most important project of my life, which is my cancer and recovery, Yara helped me define and communicate my priorities. Whether it was my short-term needs or my long-term goals, she really made sure that everyone around me could support me, not just in the moment, but throughout my journey back to health, life, and work.
Wow, I know that the cancer recovery journey is often not a linear one. I'm sure that the uncertainty would have been so challenging. It sounds like Yara did an incredible job in helping you navigate that experience and really help you focus on all aspects of your recovery journey. Now, earlier in our discussion, Yara talked a little bit about the role that work and workplace support play in facilitating a full recovery and successful return to work. What role did your workplace play in making the transition back to work smoother? Were there specific resources or processes or maybe accommodations that you found especially helpful? What was that process of working with or collaborating with your employer like for you?
Absolutely. So, as I mentioned earlier, my workplace played a crucial role in making my transition back to work smoother. I really have to say, having a strong baseline supportive culture in place right from the start is really crucial. It's the foundation that makes, everything possible to build on that support and flexibility when you need it. So baseline is important. And from day one, my employer was incredibly understanding and flexible, which made all the difference. One of the most helpful things was the ability to work remotely, especially at the beginning when I wasn't ready to work full time. They gave me the space I needed to gradually, come back easily. The flexibility in working hours was another factor. There were times when I wasn't feeling great, I was struggling with side effects, and I needed to pause, to skip meetings. And that was, again, a big relief. The ability to do that was also a relief. It took the pressure off, and I didn't have to worry about missing deadlines or falling behind. The process of working with my employer was really collaborative and supportive. I was always, from my side, I was always open and transparent about how I was feeling and about what I needed, and they were equally open and understanding. There was no push to rush back, and I felt really comfortable communicating what I could handle. Bottom line, it's really about working together to find the right balance that made all the difference. I never felt alone in this process, and that kind of workplace culture is really something amazing and something I'll always be grateful for.
That's amazing that you were able to be so open with your employer and that they had created this supportive, recovery focused culture. Looking back on your journey, what advice would you give to others who are preparing to return to work after treatment? How can employers, and more importantly, line managers, better support individuals during this difficult transition?
Well, looking back on my journey, I'd say the biggest piece of advice is to take things one step at a time. Don't rush. Communicate openly and in a very transparent way about how you're feeling, about what you need, about what you're thinking of, what you're afraid of. It's easy to put pressure on yourself to get back to work, to normal, very quickly. But recovery doesn't work that way, especially, in such a difficult treatment journey. It's important to listen to your body and really pace yourself. Now, for employers and line managers, I think the key here is flexibility and empathy. It helps a lot when there's a clear understanding that the return to work is a gradual process. Flexible hours, remote work, a phased return to work plan, adjusted workloads, for example, ergonomic workspaces if needed, access to mental health, and different other things like extended leave options, for example, can really make a big difference in easing and helping the transition. And it's also crucial, like I've said before, to maintain open line of communications, regular check-ins, but at the same time, respect someone's space and the need to be alone sometimes, and the need, to be not to be bothered. The transition back should really feel like a partnership where the person returning, feels supported, not rushed. And managers who are truly understanding and flexible can really make this transition very smooth and successful.
Thank you so much for your thoughts on that, Eddie. It's great feedback both for those who are facing their own return to work, as well as employers who have those impacted by cancer. Now, switching gears a little bit, Yara, you've played an integral role in the development of the Return to Work Cancer Care Compass program, which is a groundbreaking new WPO solution designed to help survivors achieve a seamless reintegration and comprehensive recovery after cancer. Could you take a moment and walk us through the model's profound impact and innovative design and approach, and how it stands to redefine cancer support in the workplace?
Absolutely. So, because returning to work after a cancer diagnosis comes with multiple challenges, not just physically, but emotionally and cognitively, survivors often struggle with fatigue, brain fog, anxiety, and fear of stigma. All that whilst at the same time their workplace might have changed during their absence with new training, new technologies, restructurings, all which adds to the challenge. So we've developed an innovative vocational reintegration model that supports individuals both upstream, meaning before they return to work, to ensure a smooth transition, and downstream, so after their return to work, to help them regain confidence, sustain their presence at work, and avoid fragmented absences or social disengagement. Without structured support, studies show that over half of return to work efforts fail, especially for those facing emotional difficulties. The Cancer Care Compass program provides 18 counseling sessions to support emotional well-being, 12 vocational reintegration sessions with a dedicated expert, a CORAD, which is short for Coordinator of Occupational Reintegration and Adaptation. Participants can also be signposted and connected to specialized recovery resources from elder care to child care to physical rehabilitation, dietary counseling, fertility preservation, any complementary therapy, basically whatever the person may need in their recovery journey. But we don't just focus on employees, we also empower managers. Through CORAD consultations and a manager toolkit, we help managers navigate accommodations, workplace adjustments, team dynamics, and reintegration strategies. What makes Cancer Care Compass unique is its holistic and structured approach. It's not just about resuming work, it's about thriving in it with tailored support that makes reintegration smoother, more sustainable, and ultimately more successful.
That sounds like an incredible program, providing support for those with cancer as well as their managers to create an open and supportive recovery focused workplace culture. I want to thank you both so much again for taking the time to speak with me today and for sharing your story with our listeners. Yours is such a powerful example of how a strong network of support can truly make all the difference, both during treatment and recovery. I'm so glad, Eddie, first that you're healthy and that you were provided with the support you needed to balance your health and your career. And I have no
Thank
doubt
you.
that many listeners will come away today just inspired to provide that same level of support for survivors in their own workplaces. So thank you so much for being part of that change.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And Yara, thank you again so much for all that you've done to make the Return to Work Cancer Care Compass program such a meaningful and impactful resource. For those
Thank you.
listeners who want, yeah, for those listeners
Yeah.
who want to learn more about the Return to Work product, you can head to our website, www.workplaceoptions.com, to view our full list of comprehensive well-being solutions. Thank you both so much again. And to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in.